تو فاطمہ پہ طہارت کو ناز ہے. عباس کو اگرچہ امامت نہیں ملی، عباس کو اگرچہ امامت نہیں ملی، لیکن یہ وہ ہیں جن پہ امامت کو ناز ہے. چھوٹا سا مختصر سیکنڈ سلام. اللہم صلی علی محمد. کربلا کی خاک پر کیا آدمی سجدے میں ہے، کربلا کی خاک پر کیا آدمی سجدے میں ہے. موت رسوا ہو چکی ہے، زندگی سجدے میں ہے. وہ جو ایک سجدہ علی کا بچ رہا تھا وقت فجر، وہ جو ایک سجدہ علی کا بچ رہا تھا وقت فجر، فاطمہ کا لال شاید اب اسی سجدے میں ہے. فاطمہ کا لال شاید اب اسی سجدے میں ہے. سنت پیغمبر خاتم ہے سجدے کا یہ طول، سنت پیغمبر خاتم ہے سجدے کا یہ طول. کل نبی سجدے میں تھے آج ایک ولی سجدے میں ہے، کل نبی سجدے میں تھے آج ایک ولی سجدے میں ہے. وہ جو عاشورہ کی شب گل ہو گیا تھا ایک چراغ، وہ جو عاشورہ کی شب گل ہو گیا تھا ایک چراغ، اب قیامت تک اسی کی روشنی سجدے میں ہے. اب قیامت تک اسی کی روشنی سجدے میں ہے. حشر تک جس کی قسم کھاتے رہیں گے اہل حق، حشر تک جس کی قسم کھاتے رہیں گے اہل حق، ایک نفس مطمئن اس دائمی سجدے میں ہے. ایک نفس مطمئن اس دائمی سجدے میں ہے. نوک نیزہ پر بھی ہونی ہے تلاوت بعد عصر، نوک نیزہ پر بھی ہونی ہے تلاوت بعد عصر. مصحف ناطق تہے خنجر ابھی سجدے میں ہے، مصحف ناطق تہے خنجر ابھی سجدے میں ہے. اس پہ حیرت کیا لرز اٹھی زمین کربلا، اس پہ حیرت کیا لرز اٹھی زمین کربلا. راکب دوش پیمبر آخری سجدے میں ہے، راکب دوش پیمبر آخری سجدے میں ہے. موت رسوا ہو چکی ہے، زندگی سجدے میں ہے. سلام.
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اور پڑھ لیجیے اگر کچھ ہے. ٹائم ہے.
میں کاغذ لے کر آتا ہوں.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
नहीं सॉरी
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all the Mahrameen here, as well as your Mahrameen and my Mahrameen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal
اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا بالقاسم محمد.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الإمام علي بن الحسين عليه السلام: وبلغ بإيماني أكمل الإيمان. صدق الإمام. صلوات.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Today we are gathered here at the commemoration of the Shahadat of the fourth Imam alayhi salam. And this is an Imam, as we all know, whose Imamat began when the head of his father was raised on a spear. These were difficult circumstances for this Imam, no doubt. But we don't really spend a whole lot of time looking at what this Imam left us after he returned to Medina. This is the time period where, maybe we'll spend a day or two looking at Sahifa Sajjadiyah, right? It's not just, a general overview of Sahifa Sajjadiyah that we need to understand. We need to look at just how this Imam would do his dua. And that was one of the major takeaways. What this Imam taught us. How do we ask Allah? How do we interact with Allah and do our dua? And there's this one dua that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam leaves for us. It's called Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. And many of us probably are familiar with this dua from Laylatul Qadr, right? Ramadan. We gather normally before the pandemic, we would gather in the masjid. We would recite this dua on Laylatul Qadr. But the problem is that we never really spend time to look at this dua and what's actually being said here. We put it on the checklist. Okay, we sped through Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, let's move on to Dua Tawbah. Sped through that one, let's go to Dua Joshni Kabir. It would be better really if we chose one of those du'as and focused in on it a lot more. And it's especially the case of Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. What a beautiful dua. This is a dua where Imam Sajjad is asking his Lord to please give him the best of akhlaq, the best of conduct. It's something, do we ever even ask Allah for that? Normally when we go to ask Allah for something, we go to do a dua, we have a laundry list of things that we want. I want this, I want that, give me a car, give me a house, give me, etc., etc. We come in with a list of things we want. Do we ever really ask Allah to perfect our faith? Or to give us greater certainty in our belief? Do we ever ask Allah to improve our akhlaq and the way we interact with His creation? I mean, this is something that goes beyond the material. These du'as are going beyond the material realm. They're going to things that, it's who we are as a person. To live up to that potential as a human, that's the dua that Imam Sajjad is doing. And it really is unfortunate. It really is unfortunate that we just speed through this dua and we don't give it any time. Laylatul Qadr is such a beautiful concept as well. The night of destiny. One of the things we're asking for in the night of destiny is not just to give me a house or a car or anything like that. on the night of destiny, when the trajectory of our next year is being decided, it's a beautiful concept to then ask Allah, oh Allah, perfect my iman. Perfect the way that I interact with other people. There's not enough time in a short lecture to just go through the entire beauty of this dua. I cannot do justice to it. So I will only take a few pieces, very small pieces. And it begins with the salawat, begins Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
وَبَلِّغْ بِإِيمَانِ أَكْمَلَ الْإِيمَانِ, and bring my iman to the complete and perfect iman. وَجَعَلْ يَقِينِي أَفْضَلَ الْيَقِينِ, and bring my yaqeen to the best and excellent of certainty. When do we ever ask for that? And it continues, Imam continues, وَانْتَهِ بِنِيَّتِي إِلَى أَحْسَنِ النِّيَّاتِ وَبِعَمَلِي إِلَى أَحْسَنِ الْأَعْمَالِ. Make sure my niyat is the best of niyat, best of intentions, and that my actions are the best of actions. There is something to be said about the order here as well. But why is it that we're first talking about iman, and then yaqeen, and then niyat, and then amal? Why not just make akhlaq all about, if we're trying to perfect our akhlaq, why not just make it all about things we do? Why not put amal first? But Imam is sending us a very important message here. He's telling us the importance of that niyat in between. You can't have an amal that's worth anything until you've established your faith, until you've strengthened that faith with certainty, and then you have the right niyat to go in. Right? Ahsan al-niyat, best of it. Sometimes, even in our worship, and even to some extent the Aza of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we don't always check our niyat. That sometimes it is a problem that we gravitate toward the biggest and the best, right? But it may just be, maybe, that out of the entire majlis, for example, no part of it was accepted except for that one part where that child struggled with the Arabic, in the most broken up Arabic recited that surah, and from there that may have been the only part that was accepted, for all we know. That we tend to say, sometimes even ridicule some people behind their backs. And how did he read this with such broken up Urdu? How did he read this surah with such broken up Urdu? How can that be? We begin to ridicule people for that. Imam is saying that amal part, you're criticizing that amal part, but the niyat part came before it. And the niyat was what shaped that amal. The niyat shaped the quality of the amal. Right? Ahsan al-niyat, ahsan al-amal. Right? The best of niyat, the best of action. And this has made its way, unfortunately, where we think, certain people are better inherently at doing certain things in majlis. We don't want to hear, for example, this child read the surah. We don't want to hear this person read the majlis. We don't want to hear this person read the noha. But that is not what the Imam taught us. And the Imam, keep in mind, this Imam was one of the first azadars of Imam Hussain after Karbala. There is no more credible of a source than someone like Imam Sajjad and Sayyidah Zainab on how to do the azah of Imam Hussain. That niyat has to be intact. That's what the Imam is prioritizing. And in fact, if you move a little further, and I will skip a little bit in Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, this is a very beautiful, beautiful statement that Imam alayhi salam put out for us. He says, وَعَبِّدْنِي لَكَ وَلَا تُفْسِدْ عِبَادَتِي بِالْعُجْبِ. We call this Imam Sayyid al-Sajideen, right? Why do we call him? A lot of times if you ask somebody, why do we call Imam Sajjad Sayyid al-Sajideen? They'll say it's because he did a lot of sajda. He did a lot of prayers. Okay? You know who else did a lot of prayers and a lot of sajda? Iblis. Iblis did a lot of prayers, he did a lot of sajda. You don't see anybody calling Iblis Sayyid al-Sajideen. The difference here, we see it so clearly in this statement, Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, that make me worship you and not corrupt my worship with self-admiration. Imam did not corrupt his worship with ego. That's the difference. That's why we call him Sayyid al-Sajideen. Because every sajda that he did, every rakat of prayer that he did, every breath that he took was worship of Allah that was not corrupted by ego. It was totally sincere. That's the difference. And why is Imam bringing this up? Doesn't Imam already have all of these qualities? He already has the perfect faith. He's already certain, he has yaqeen already. He already has the best of niyat. He already has the best of amal. His worship is not corrupted by ego. It's not corrupted by self-admiration. Why is the Imam bringing this up? The Imam already has all these things. Why is he asking Allah for it? The answer to that is because he wants us to realize what's important. That by giving us this dua, maybe by reading this over and asking Allah for these things, maybe it'll make us prioritize the niyyah. Maybe it'll make us prioritize perfecting our faith and asking Allah to help perfect our faith. Maybe it'll help us in developing that yaqeen. Maybe it'll help us in going back and looking at our own niyyah and our own amal, and of removing ujb, removing that ego and self-admiration, self-love from our ibadah. On one hand, yes, we are. When we read this dua, we are asking Allah for these things. But just as much, we have a responsibility. That responsibility for us is there. This dua is meant to spark a change that we take forward. We have to be the ones who go back and say, okay, is my iman secure? Do I know why I believe what I'm believing? We have to be the ones who go back and reinforce and empower our faith more yaqeen. We have to be the ones that go back and check why we're doing what we're doing. Am I doing this for myself? Am I doing this to increase my standing in the community? Am I doing this for money? We see these trends emerging in a lot of our worship, not just in Aza E Hussain, across the board. We're seeing, that some things are becoming industries, and it's something that we should really be careful of. Now, I'm not saying don't call anybody who asks for money, for example. I'm not saying to do that, but we just have to. There has to reach a point where we start to consider, are we following the example left behind by Imam Sajjad, where he says to perfect that niyat and to go back. That's an uncomfortable process, right? To go back and say, okay, my niyat was not great before. It's an uncomfortable process, no doubt. Because now we say that, okay, I have changes that I have to make. We don't like change. It's not comfortable for us all the time. But to go back and say, okay, now I have to move forward and keep my niyat pure, for none except for Allah, to remove that ego from my ibadah. Imam Sajjad even continues. It's a very beautiful continuation of the same idea. Imam Sajjad says, وَأَجْرِ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَى يَدَيَ الْخَيْرِ وَلَا تَمْحَقَهُ بِالْمَنِّ. So let good from my hands, this is the translation, it's a beautiful imagery. Let good from my hands, let good flow from my hands upon the people, and don't erase it by making them feel indebted. Sometimes when you do services for other people, we help other people, right? We expect there to be a favor there, right? Now I have a favor over them. Right? Sometimes even that, we're inclined to do that. It's not totally sincere, is what Imam Sajjad is saying here. That until that service is just because it's right, until we do that service just because it's the right thing to do and for closeness to Allah, that we can't be using these services to gain favors over them. So Imam is telling us in all aspects of our life, whether that's worship, whether that's Aza E Hussain, whether that's community service or help to others, that until the niyat is bakfir, until the niyat is clean, until our goal is not to gain anything from anyone else, then we still have a lot of work left to do. And this is a conversation that we individually need to have with ourselves. And we may even, we should do it as well on the family level and on the community level, to go back and have these uncomfortable conversations. That if change were so comfortable and so easy, everyone would have done it. Imam Sajjad wouldn't need to tell us to do these things if they weren't necessary, but they are necessary. I mean, this is an Imam who, can you imagine the pain that this Imam went through? You and I, if we went through that kind of pain, we would say, oh Allah, how could you? We would say, oh Allah, I'm not going to spend, would we really spend this much time asking Allah to perfect us after going through that kind of tragedy? Would we spend this much time, the amount of time this Imam spent thanking Allah after this type of tragedy? I mean, they would ask this Imam, why are you still crying? It's happened already. It's in the past, Imam. Why do you still cry over this? And Imam would say that when Yusuf was separated from Yaqub knew Yusuf was still alive. And he cried for him until he went blind. In Karbala, he lost 18 Yusufs. How can you expect me to stop crying? This is an Imam that when water would be brought before him, he would cry so much. Imagine, maybe in that water he would see the broken lips of Sakina. Maybe he would remember Al-Atash, Al-Atash, maybe that sound of those children saying Al-Atash would ring in his ears. Maybe every step he took, he would remember those steps between Kufa and Sham. A journey that was over 20 days in the heat. But this is an Imam who, when Imam Baqir was giving him ghusl, his body, the body of Imam Sajjad was telling the stories of Karbala. It's as if that, every mark from the whip that Shimr hit him with could be seen. That talk, that collar that pierced into the neck of Imam, those marks were still there. Those burns from those chains. Remember the heat in the desert. They say that Sakina would take some water and she would put the water on the chains to cool her brother's chains down. Maybe my brother will feel this brief moment. We'll be relieved from that pain. How could that Imam ever forget Kufa and Sham? In fact, this was that Imam who would say, when people asked him, oh Imam, what was the most difficult time for you? He'd say, Asham, Asham, Asham. So this was that, they would ask him, oh Imam, Shahadat is normal in your family. Shahadat happens in your family. Why do you still cry over this? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, you haven't done justice with that question. Yes, Shahadat runs in our family for sure. But does it run in my family for the women to be paraded through the streets without their hijab? The Sham, what happened in that Sham? That till the time when Imam Sajjad left this world, the memory of Sham would just not go away. This was that place where the family of Ahlul Bayt were in front of 700 na-mihrams. 1,400 eyes stared at Sayyidah Zainab. And how could we forget that child of Imam Hussain, that Sakina? That when Sakina was in the prisons of Sham, the head of Imam Hussain was brought to her. When the cloth is removed, Sakina sees the head of her father. She puts her lips to the lips of her father. Father, who orphaned me at such a young age. Father, after you they burned the tents. Father, after you they put my brother in chains. Father, after you they paraded us through Kufa and Sham. This Imam is seeing this happen in front of his eyes. But there comes a time when the child goes quiet. Imam Sajjad feels the body, and the body has gone cold. Imam says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This was one of the trials of Imam Sajjad. How does he bury the body of his sister Sakina? They say that the soil was so packed that when Imam Sajjad would remove the soil to dig the grave of the child, his blood and nails would break. Then when the family of Rasulullah left Sham, the blood and nails of the Imam were still on the grave of Sakina. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I ask you, Allah, to please hasten the reappearance of Imam Sahib al Zaman, to cleanse our niyat and to make us true servants of Allah and to make us true helpers of this Imam alayhi salam. And we ask you, Allah, to ease the difficulties of people at this time. Those who don't have a job, but those whose businesses have seen difficulty. Oh Allah, please give people relief from this virus, from this pandemic, and from all sicknesses.
MashaAllah, beta, MashaAllah.
غش میں پڑا ہے تشنا کام ہو جائے غم سے نہ تمام ہائے میرا بیمار امام ہائے میرا بیمار امام زخم لہو برساتا ہے
زخم لہو برساتا ہے
دل ہے کہ چلکاتا ہے زخم لہو برساتا ہے
دل ہے کہ چلکاتا ہے
گلے کھاتا جاتا ہے لمحہ لمحہ گام بگام
ہائے میرا
بیمار امام ہائے میرا بیمار امام
ماں بہنوں کے چہرے
ماں بہنوں کے چہرے
بالوں کے پیچھے ہے چھپے
ماں بہنوں کے چہرے
بالوں کے پیچھے چھپے
ہاتھ بندھے ہیں سر ہے کھلے سامنے ہے ایک مجمع عام
ہائے میرا
بیمار امام ہائے میرا بیمار امام
کیسا دل پر لگتا ہے
دل پر لگتا ہے
ایک رسن میں بستا ہے
تیر سا دل پہ لگتا ہے ایک رسن میں بستا ہے
شمع ستم گر ہنستا ہے لے لے کر ایک ایک کا نام
ہائے میرا بیمار امام ہائے میرا بیمار امام
میرا باب لیلا ہے
میرا باب یہ لیلا ہے
یہ کلثوم یہ کبرا ہے
میرا باب یہ لیلا ہے یہ کلثوم یہ کبرا ہے
یہ معصوم سکینہ ہے اور ہے زینب اس کا نام
ہائے میرا بیمار امام ہائے میرا
حسین حسین
حسین حسین
حسین حسین
حسین حسین
حسین حسین
حسین حسین
حسین
حسین حسین
حسین حسین
As it begins Ayat Ashura, I'd like to remind everybody that there is a 2 rakat namaz accompanied with this, read just like Salatul Fajr, just with the intention of Hadiya Ziyarat Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We recite this ziyarat on behalf of Imam Sahib al-Asr al-Zaman, on behalf of all marhameen, and on behalf of those facing distress. Qurbatan ila Allah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام. وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. ولعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم، وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم والبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبتني عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة، وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن عاكدة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جهدت الحسين عليه السلام وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. السلام عليكم جميعا أئمة المسلمين من ذرية الحسين عليه السلام. السلام عليكم يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليكم محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان. الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وزكرك ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا معينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.